about when people buy at Western, they don't know what they're buying. Is it and the meats and so forth. So today we started that there was someone who's going to be. It was today and tomorrow for 2 hours.
Mike.
And someone's going to be in Western Fairfax for 2 hours, and anything which is under CHK for those 2 hours will have an extra stamp. What will say CYL, Congregation CLY, is Congregation Levi Yitzchak. So we know that it was open in front of a Yid, and when it says that it's CHK, you know it's CHK. I'm not saying the other stuff is not, but many people complained that they wanted that someone, not that the guy is going to say, this is CHK, this is Agri, this is this, and this is that. So he started today, and it's going to be today and tomorrow. It's going to be twice a week for 2 hours every day. Someone's going to be there when they cut the chicken and the meat. Now when you buy it, you know that it was open and you saw that this is what they're selling you, this is what it is. I want to thank the Rabbanim who came to speak from the O-U-O-K and Chav-K, and the one who are waiting is Yossi Bodenstein. We're still waiting for him. We want to thank them that they can give us some insight, not only concerning kashrus in a restaurant, we're talking about kashrus in our own home, how do we have to do things and so forth. So we want to thank them for the time and the effort to come and speak. And I'm giving over now the floor to my brother Yankee, who has all the emails, the good hot emails.
Okay, before we start. Tonight's symposium was put together by Zalman Fogelman, who runs the Kol Erev, which runs in this shul every Monday through Thursday. So before we start, I want to read to you a little piece from Hayom Yom, very negeya to every one of us. Daled Cheshvan. The Rebbe writes as follows: Limud Torah b'chol yoyim v'yoyim. Learning Torah every single day, negeya b'nefashos mamish, is crucial to life itself. Loy levad b'nefesh shalemit, not only to the soul of the one who's actually studying, ki imkam b'nefesh b'nei b'isei, also the souls of his family. She'oz avir abayis hu avir Torah v'yishmayim, because then the atmosphere of home becomes an atmosphere of Torah and Yerushalayim. It's plain and simple. Baruch Hashem Zalman put together this program of having a Kol Erev for Chabad Rash in Los Angeles, and you should take advantage of it. I'll tell you a little short story. There's a Yid who lived in Crown Heights. His name was M2U00003. He was known to be a very wealthy man. He has quite a number of grandchildren, great-grandchildren running around Los Angeles. And this M2U00003 once went to the rabbi, told the rabbi, I have too much stress. He has to have for bracha, for menuchas hanefesh. Plain and simple. The rabbi told him you should get a chavrusa, learn with him, and not in your house. And this will cure you of your stress. You should have menuchas hanefesh. So this is a golden thing that Zalman is doing in our shul, in this community. And I strongly advise everyone to take advantage of it. Now, on to the symposium. We have with us we're lucky to have with us 4 very distinguished Rabbanim who are involved in kashrus on a day-to-day basis. And we're going to start, each one of them is going to speak for a few minutes about something which is very important, and then we're going to go to the questions, Q&A. Now, if you did not email by 3 o'clock, and, I need to add something. Believe it or not, I got a few people ask me, does 3 p.m. today, Sunday, have to do with 3 p.m. Sunday 7 weeks ago? No, I promise Scout's honor. I didn't even think of it. Nothing to do with 3 p.m. on Sunday 7 weeks ago. Okay, now we cleared that up. Okay. So, we're going to start Each one of them will say a few words, and then we'll go to questions and answers. Now, if you didn't email a question, Rav Zalman has some index cards. You can write it down, pass it forward. Unfortunately, we cannot have an open, just stand up and ask questions, and for a very simple reason. We want everyone to come out of here, this thing ends, with some practical knowledge that you can apply, that you can become an informed consumer of kashrus. We're not discussing tonight zucchini meat, even though they're the catalyst, but we're not discussing them. We're not going to discuss which restaurants you could eat and cannot eat them, because that's not where we're going tonight. We're going with very practical things that each one of us can do, that we have homes should be kosher, and we should have, and that could be the way a Jew should live. Kosher to eat kashrus in the geya. It becomes nasa down b'vasim v'sari, like it says in Tanya. It becomes part of you. So push it to know how we can be informed consumers of kashrus. That is our goal tonight. So enough of me, and now we're going to ask Rav Shai Eichenblatt, who is the head of the Western California, Western region, for the Chav K, and he's going to lead us off, explaining us some important things about kashrus.
Thank you, Zalman, for having the Kol Erev, and Yankee and Rabbi Reichik for louder. I want to thank Rabbi Reichik for taking such a strong position of leadership in our community.
Is this a little better?
Worse. Anyways, I just wanted to speak. I thought it might be helpful as a fellow consumer as yourself on the local level, what it's like, perhaps a couple of insights from industrial kashrus that can perhaps give you a few tools to go about your daily practice as a consumer. So, the Rebbe's father has an acronym, as we know, for kashrus, k'moitzi shalom rav. So the process of eating kosher food is harvesting the divine sparks in the creation, which we have this opportunity if the product is truly kosher. So you have to look at your whole kosher experience like a portfolio. You have a fortune, and you have to manage your portfolio well. In your portfolio, you have 4 instruments that you can use. Your first instrument is the Rav. Baruch Hashem, we've been blessed with a Rav Reichik who has been tirelessly striving to ensure that our standards are being kept. We asked the question, what is our standard? So as we know, Rabbi Reichik clarified our standard. The standard of Lubavitcher Hasidim is to seek and to verify that the hashgacha that's put on food is carried out by Yirat Shamayim, someone who has Yirat Shamayim. And someone who's smart, someone who knows what's going on, knows the comings and goings, and it's kind of like pregnancy. You're not sort of pregnant. It's not most likely kosher. You've got to do all you can to make sure that it is kosher. So you have in your first instrument, your first asset in your portfolio of the Rav. You have to consult him on all matters regarding our standards. When it comes to your second asset is industrial kashrus. Now, industrial kashrus has a number of advantages over local hashgacha because there's all kinds of systems that create redundancies that help us more or less prove to a certain extent that indeed this product is kosher. Today, there's such a proliferation of standards to get the Global Food Act, which creates incredible amount of transparency in a mashgiach's ability to go into a plant and to see everything from the receiving, documentation for the ingredients that come in, systems of oversight of production, and allergen programs, and organic programs, and good manufacturing programs, and sanitation programs. It all fits together into you can go back and forth with a follow and check and make sure that indeed, and these are people that have for multiple reasons a desire to follow these records, and if we can go in and review a plant and understand it well, understand equipment well, have access to experts, but perhaps the most important part of what we do, which we can really maybe take a lesson to what's going on to us on a local level, is the fact that everything's biksav. We write down, when a Mashiach goes in, there is a certain itinerary he has to check. And this has been overseen by the Board of Rabbanim, and this has been overseen by the administrators in the office. They dispatch a Mashgiach with an exact listing of what he's got to look for, both products and ingredients, and he reviews the veracity of what he's doing. And another aspect is very important, is it's more cost effective. Because the way it is, we have to go as often. We have to go every single day, all day long. So one time, Rabbi Teitelbaum, when I got involved in industrial kashrus, he said to me, I don't know if he remembers the piece of advice he gave, he said, it could work out, kashrus, as long as you stay away from three things: meat, wine, and fish. Okay. So Baruch Hashem, you get a real, certain ones stick with you over time, and that one really stuck with me. And I think of, I'm not in a position to talk about local hashgacha because I'm not involved and I don't have a right. What I can say is that I really feel for these guys because they got to deal with all three sometimes simultaneously, and therefore, but my impression as a fellow consumer is that it would be really nice if some of these ideas that we have in industrial hashgacha could be transferred to the local level. That there could be a written, written standards, written protocol. If the mashgiach's got to go daven, well, he's got to daven. We've got to find a time for that mashgiach to daven. Is he following the written protocol? Is he being checked? So there's all kinds of systems that can be put in place to catch people with criminal minds, basically. So I just want to finish by saying, I don't know if the fixes can be the Rabbanim are working tirelessly to make a fix. There's a real problem with cost, to give effective pay, and there's a big problem. I don't know how it's going to be resolved. But as you as a consumer, I just want to give you one thing that I feel is like a rule of thumb. I feel a phone call I got from Rabbi Levitansky of Shalom one day, and apparently his wife wanted to bring a new product into the house. So before she gets to bring the product in the house, she has to clear with her husband. Husband calls me up, Rabbi Levitansky, and the kind of conversation he had was so interesting. It was a bread product. It was a simple bread product. But he wanted to know, in a friendly way, but in a very careful way, he wanted to know what it's like inside the plant. He wanted to know what my routine is like. He wanted to know what kind of ingredients could be a question. And after he got a feeling and a sense that I was really on my game, he let it in his house. So I don't know how far we have to dial back, but if the standard that the Rav has, he said, is you're not sort of pregnant, you either are, you're not, either kosher, it's not. Perhaps we need to go way back and really simplify, take a look at what's in our cabinets, take your four assets in your portfolio, take your Rav, know when to direct your question to the Rav, to clarify what Chabad standards are, your standards. Go to consult and be an intelligent consumer. You walk in, for example, when you walk into a restaurant, you could be a nudge, or you could also be someone asking, if the restaurant gets regular questions, where's the mashgiach, and questions, they're going to improve their standards. Because the truth of the matter is, there's in Bava Basra it talks about a bor b'reshus harabim. So each one of these things can be a bor b'reshus harabim. If you don't consult with the Rav, if it's not clear to you what the Rav holds, that can be a bor. That can be like you can fall into it. So too, if for a hashgacha agency, if it doesn't watch out for its symbol, people are going to buy the product thinking it's a kosher product, and that's a bor b'reshus harabim. If there's not the right standards on the local level, we see what a bor b'reshus harabim is. But the most important one really is you. You're the most important, because when you demand the standards that you want, not just you heard from the Rav, or assume the biggest bor, the biggest public bor b'reshus harabim is when you don't ask questions, when you don't wonder, and when you assume. So which is in the schus of Matan Torah, Kabbalas Torah, each one of us should do what we can do to contribute to the public welfare, to put the proper gedarim, the proper safeguards around our mutual investment, and we should be zeicha to have kashrus behiddur and Kabbalas Torah b'simcha b'tumis.
Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Eichelot. And I'm going to ask Laser Teitelbaum. He's going to speak about how kashrus organizations interact or don't interact. So, Rabbi Teitelbaum. Now, he has a slight hoarse voice, so we'll see if we can get this mic to work well.
I'm sorry that I'm not really prepared, so I didn't really know that I was going to speak. Nobody actually told me beforehand to prepare. So now we're talking about when you go into a store, or let's say a restaurant, it's easier. The restaurant, the hashgacha on the restaurant, the Rav HaMachshir will say, is relying on a whole list of other hashgachas, of other cheshayim, of what they're using. I'm sorry, as Yankee said, all of a sudden I got hoarse. Maybe that's a simon I shouldn't talk, but that's whatever it is, I'm here. At any rate, so when the Rav HaMachshir in the let's say the restaurant, you know that the ketchup is either OU or OK or whatever, whichever one, other one. The meat has a hechsher from whoever it has the hechsher from, depending on which meat they're using. And if it's cheese, it has this hechsher. If it's obviously a milchik restaurant, etc. So we're all relying on each other. Not only relying on each other for these kind of things, for finished products, but we're all relying on each other for the raw materials, as we call them, or what's commonly known as ingredients. And we have to know which ingredient comes from where, that it comes from somewhere, wherever it is. Yeah, I tried drinking a few teas today, it didn't help. But anyway, for whatever reason. So we're all relying on each other. The general idea is, let me put it this way. In an ideal world, it would be, there could be two sides of an ideal world. The first side of the ideal world is that the Rav HaMachshir, whoever says that a product is kosher, knows exactly where everything is coming from, how it's made, and went to the ends of the earth to find what's happening. And then comes back and says, okay, you can put together these 15 things and make barbecue sauce. So you know that in barbecue sauce there's some smoke flavor. I happen to know how to make smoke flavor because I've been to a few factories like that, but that's beside the point. And things like that. But in the end, you still have to rely on each other because otherwise it's not going to work. On the other hand, the other side of the coin of an ideal world would be that everybody in the world, when they say that something is kosher, they make sure 100%. And in that there are, shall we say, levels of supervision vary greatly. Some people say, oh, we can go into this factory once a month. Someone else says, no, I'm not going to take anything from anywhere unless there's a mashgiach tmidi all the time. Let's not fool ourselves. There are no mashgiachim tmidim everywhere, at every factory, wherever they're making anything, almost, except for those things that either the halacha says that you have to have a mashgiach tmidi, like meat and chicken and cheese and fish and wine and these kind of things, or where you find that there's a problem, there's an issue, and you have to take care of it. So you have a mashgiach sitting there. Of course, you always have to make sure that the mashgiach doesn't become a little too used to things and thinks that things are going good. So that's where we have to, each other have to decide, okay, this hashgacha, go by reputation, go by checking out, go by talking to people, figuring out what they do, how they do it, and having questions. I just spoke to somebody about a restaurant, and he said, the restaurant, yeah, they're very good, they're cooperative, they do everything I told them, and they're cooperative. So he gave me one example. What was the cooperation? He went in, and he saw that the pilot lights were out. So since the pilot light was, so it becomes a shiloh bishalakum, basically. So he would, he made them fix, he told them to fix the pilot lights, and they had somebody in the same day, and they fixed it, and so. Beautiful place. My question was, this is a fleshika restaurant. I asked him, excuse me, you mean to say that normally there's a goy, a chef, and there's no mashgiach al-asar? He says, well, yeah. I said, thank you very much for the information. And that was enough for me. I didn't need any more. They're very cooperative, they're very good, he tried to impress me. But it just happens to be the other way. So you have to know how you're talking and what you're asking, etc. Once it gets obvious. So we work on these kind of things, and as I said, you know, the other thing is, again, as Shaya said before, there's one thing to remember when you go into a store to buy things. Don't rely on the fact that the label looks the same as the other label that you know is kosher for the next 40 years. Sometimes the label changes, sometimes there's a mistake, sometimes there's this or that or the other thing. At least check the labels. And another thing to say is
We check the ingredients?
that a hashgacha, that, at least in my opinion, and I learned it from my father all the show, when he was in Russia and not trusting anybody, that wasn't hashgachas, that were people houses. And he had a famous thing, I heard about it a few times already, that he said he wanted to go to someone, that someone wanted him to eat by his house. So he said, I don't know, you know, chveis. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna have to see what your grandmother is doing. His grandmother was the one cooking. And then, so when this young kid came to his grandmother telling her that he wants this Chassidish bacher to come to eat his house, and he's gonna want to check and everything, and it is, and he was afraid of his grandmother, maybe she'll be insulted, etc. So his grandmother said, of course, let him come and check whatever he wants, let him show me. So my father said, if she doesn't get insulted, then I could eat without checking. Whoever gets insulted, you have a problem. If someone, in other words, if you call the hechsher and you ask, is this the least someone could tell you, lav dafka on the spot, because sometimes you have to check. You're giving a hechsher to I don't know how many products. There's hundreds of thousands of products, literally, and you have to check on it. You have to figure it out. Somebody's asking, is this authentic? You shouldn't. If somebody gets upset by that kind of thing, if somebody gets upset by questions, then you have an issue. That's the way I look at it. And the close. Okay, we'll leave it go at that. Not the whole day long.
Okay, next we're going to ask Rabbi Bogenstein, who's worked in kashrus for numerous years. He's a consultant to numerous agencies. And simple, you call him, he's like a fireman. When they got a problem, they call him in to straighten it out. And he's going to deliver a message. Now, shut the video for a second. Pause. He needs to say something